Can we move on to capital gains tax? Because we are speaking of tax. The outgoing Treasury Secretary has recommended a capital gains tax. Are you going to take her up on her advice?
Well, no, because
Why
the
not?
commitment we've made to New Zealanders is first, we're going to make sure we've got our own
She
house.
always says commitment to New Zealanders. She does mean our commitment to landlords and higher income New Zealanders. That's what she means, eh? Because she just says New Zealanders. I'm sure she's not doing it on purpose, but it seems a bit misleading that she doesn't mention that small slice of New Zealand that the commitment is actually made for, landlords and high net individuals. Do you reckon she's just kind of forgotten to say it this time around? Maybe she just,
No, look, I think New Zealand renters have craved a policy such as capital gains tax being declined. They crave it.
Yeah, all right. I was just thinking, I'm sure she does mean our commitment to landlords and high net worth individuals, but she's just kind of used New Zealanders as a cover-all for only those people. No, I guess it's fine.
It's just easier. It flows off the tongue.
And that we're spending your money as efficiently as possible before
Giving it to landlords and high net worth individuals.
we tax you more. And our view is that in the past few years, spending has increased dramatically, but hasn't always delivered good results for New Zealanders. So we've been doing work to trim the sails, get things back in order so we can get the books back in balance. And we think
there is always that interesting conversation, isn't it? The old Labor, they spent so much money and what terrible results. So we're going to spend far less, have less people, and it will be better. Never quite understood how that works. You know, the All Blacks, oh, look how poorly they played in the weekend with 15 people. What we're going to do is we're going to cut all their salaries and only put 10 on the field, and then they'll be much, much better. Chewy's gone walkabout, so we'll just keep going.
that's a more responsible thing to do than just stripping more money from New Zealanders' bank accounts.
Speaking of trimming, Treasury recommends a slimming down of superannuation. Would National put changes to super back on the ballot for 20?
How is this for like every national minister's nightmare? Being asked about capital gains tax, being asked about making paying less to superannuitants, and also then going into selling state assets. This would be like a fever dream for most national ministers going, I don't want to be asked about this, not publicly. Please don't ask me about this, not publicly. So yeah, we'll see.
26.
Well, obviously, we've got a coalition commitment with New Zealand First not to lower the age of superannuation. And as a party, we haven't determined our policies for the next campaign. We did campaign on lifting the age of eligibility so that from 2044, it would rise to 67, the age of eligibility. And we did that because we really want New Zealand superannuation to remain sustainable. It's something that New Zealanders look forward to in their older age, and it's something that we want to continue into the future.
More of a serious warning, though, by the outgoing Treasury.
Say again?
That's good to know, Pat, that they see that that's important. What they haven't seen is that if that's important, then they need to fund it.
Yeah. I know you and I had a bit of a disagreement on this.
They could fund it.
We've had a bit of a disagreement, you and me, on the superannuation, but I think we came to a conclusion when I said it can't stay as it is right now. And then I added the addendum, unless they change how they're paying for it. So it can't stay as it is right now, unless they find a different way to fund it or fund it more. And they're basically kicking the can down the street, as all governments have done for the past 20 years. I well remember Winston Peters and the Retirement Commissioner being on a close-up type show and actually being pointed out, well, the average life expectancy in New Zealand at the moment is 80. In 25 years, we're going to put the average age, the pension age up by 2 years. And by then, the average life expectancy will be up by 2 years. It kind of all made logical sense to do it. So they had to make changes to who received it to pay for it. Now, there's only two options: changes to who and how it's received, or more funding. And they're the only two possibilities. But every government seems to go, not touching, and my head's in the sand.
They seem to be quite happy to roll out incremental increase in the age that you receive it. When this problem was first acknowledged, why didn't anyone stick their hand up and go, this is a problem that we can see, like a train at the end of the tunnel? Why don't we get the fuck ahead of it and start increasing that funding, that investment? That was the idea behind the Cullen Fund.
Yeah.
To get more money coming into the superannuation. When they talk about putting the age up, if you're in a hard job, in a menial job that is going to do a toll on your body, guess what? All of that money that you're paying into the super fund, you ain't going to see. Yeah. If you're Māori, guess what? Your life expectancy means that you may not get to access it. This is my concern. Whenever any government starts mentioning putting the age up, they are solving the problem wrong.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep going.
Secretary was that she says revenues are not covering expenses currently. Are you committed to cutting down on the debt in your budget?
Now, Chewy, if revenues in this government aren't covering their expenditures, there's two ways you can solve this. One is you can cut until you match your revenue. Or two is you can get more revenue. You know, like that $17 billion in tax cuts and going back to landlords. They could just put that back into the revenue. And then guess what? This question would be null and void because the problem would be solved. So they've chosen, remember, we've got to remember this. Every time we hear about, you know, Te Whatu Ora's budget or revenue not being enough for, anytime we hear about that, that's all a conscious decision by this government, with the problem being laid at the feet of tax cuts and landlord reimbursements. Because that $17 billion, if it was still within our, let's call it a storehouse, our coffers, nothing would be underfunded if they chose to fund it. So they've had to underfund things and make cuts because they have chosen to remove some of the people of New Zealand's revenue by giving it back to predominantly high net worth individuals and landlords. Anything else, Joey? Should we hit play?
No, go for it.
Are committed to getting the debt down and getting the books back in balance. And that's the path we set out at the budget. We were told if we left spending where the last government had it, we wouldn't get the books back in balance till around 2030. Well, we've made changes that mean we'll get the books back into balance several years earlier.
Several. Notice you didn't give a number to that. Several. I would suspect several would be now. Well, now it's only 6 years difference. So what does several equal? So what she's saying is we'll be back into surplus 2 years earlier, but what we've done is caused a huge amount of harm to hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders, and we've ruined things like our health system in doing so. Personally, I would rather take an extra 2 years to get back into surplus and not have ruined our health system and put more people into poverty. But that's just me, Joey. I'm a bit of an ideologue, you know.
A radical.
Yeah, I'm a radical.
And that's important because otherwise we're leaving more and more debt to my kids and our grandkids.
And what are those changes?
Well, we focused, of course, on reducing.
Sorry, I know I've interrupted this a lot. Hang on. We would have been back in surplus by 2030. How the fuck does that leave this debt to your grandkids? Like, are your children pregnant this very second? You know what I mean? It's like that. This is the try. If we're going to be back in surplus by 2030, that's 6 years away. How is that leaving debt to your fucking grandchildren? This is not a 50-year long-term plan. This is we're back in surplus under your plans by 2027, 2028, under Labour by 2030. What's this got to do with your kids and your grandkids being left in debt? You know, it's just all horseshit.
I've just got a psychic message from Shane Jones. He wants me to tell you and the folks listening at home that it's political rhetoric and it doesn't mean anything. So stop telling me off for the things that I say.
I'm not telling her off. I just wanted to be honest. I want them all to be bloody honest, you know?
Yeah.
Reducing the amount of investment in the public sector agencies. We also made sensible changes, things like the fees-free scheme. We've shifted that from the first year to the final year, which we think incentivises students, but also reduces costs. So we made a number of changes, and together they meant that we were saving $23 billion over the next 4 years. And we intend to keep being disciplined about how we spend taxpayer money.